Welcome in to Kickin It with Jake and Noah, episode 6 from Boston SBC camp. We have a couple of people besides myself, Noah Ep.6, and my co-host Jake Liker. We have guest host Byron Talefson, and we will be talking about a variety of different soccer topics. But we're going to start off with the number to call. That's 224-563-8444. Again, 224-563-8444. That will be in the comments section below if you want to check it out. And if you want to call in or text in, whatever you want to do, follow us on Facebook at Kickin It with Jake and Noah. Up to 335 likes, I believe, trying to move up a little bit more. We don't have a Twitter yet, but eventually we'll make one. And Jake will be in charge of that because he's good at Twitter. So, first of all, introducing guest host Jake Liker. Jake, how you doing today?
I'm doing very well after that nice compliment of yours. If you think I'm good at Twitter too, or you want to find out if I really am good at Twitter, follow me on Twitter at Jake Liker, on Instagram at Jake_Liker. Any other plugs? Oh yeah, like Rookies Roundup on Facebook, and of course like Kickin It with Jake and Noah on Facebook, and tell everyone you know, or people you don't know too. Just tell everyone.
Okay, and now Byron, how you doing today?
I'm pretty good today. Glad to be here. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Good. Oh, and almost forgot. In case you guys don't know him already, Blake Devine, my co-host on Blake and Noah LA to Chicago. Blake, how you doing?
Good. It's great to be on your show. This is the first time that I've actually been on the Kickin It with Jake and Noah show, and I'm excited to talk some soccer in America.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to start off with League One. In case you're not familiar with what that is basically the top division in France. And though it's not the biggest, we're starting off with it because it kicks off on August 8th. That's the earliest any league is kicking off, so it seems appropriate that we kick off with it as well. Of course, last year PSG came in first, and Monaco, who made a big splash last transfer season in the summer, ended up in second place. But of course, lots of things have happened since then. Monaco, of course, lost James Rodriguez. We'll talk about that later. And PSG, they're still the same old PSG. Of course, Zlatan Ibrahimovic, he's aging slowly, but he's still one of the most dangerous scorers. So we'll start off with the Bayern. Just a quick thought, not necessarily a prediction, but what do you think will happen? Like, what do you think is the kind of stigma right now in France?
Yeah, it's really been Paris Saint-Germain these last 2 years dominating French football, and I continue to see them performing at this high level. Edison Cavani, he didn't have a tremendous season, but combine Cavani and Ibrahimovic, although he's getting up there, is still one of the best strikers. Now you have David Luiz coming over to Paris Saint-Germain, who is an excellent player, maybe paid a little bit too much by Paris Saint-Germain, but combine Thiago Silva and David Luiz, who played together on Brazil and are now on Paris Saint-Germain together. That is a fantastic defense for Paris Saint-Germain. Combine that with the attack of Ibrahimovic, once again, Cavani. I don't see another team contesting with them. Monaco's up there, of course. They will do well and have been rumored to get some targets. But James Rodriguez, a star for Colombia in the World Cup, as we've seen, that is a big loss for them, without a doubt.
Okay, and now we're going to move on to Jake. Jake, quick thoughts on, just what's going on in the table.
Well, I agree here. Look, Paris Saint-Germain did fantastic last year, as we expect from a team with their amount of money and their pedigree. Of course, they were first place after just the 10th round of games of 38, and they never looked back after that. I think that they'll be able to pad a lead even more, considering Monaco has been dealt a blow, losing James Rodriguez, and this could open the door for Lupe to come up into second place and maybe, just maybe, contend for first place if they can somehow get past PSG.
Okay, and Blake, what are your thoughts just overall on France?
Yeah, right now I have to go with PSG. This year they won in a very dominant fashion, finishing with 89 points over AC Monaco. You know what? This year I think the lead is only going to extend farther. I think the gap has furthered itself. AC Monaco obviously losing James Rodriguez, who had an outstanding World Cup. You still have to factor in that AC Monaco has the likes of Falcao. Although he is still coming off of an injury, I expect him to have an outstanding bounce-back season. They have a very, very good team. No doubt about that. But PSG is by far head and shoulders above any team, and I expect them to win. But in regards to Monaco, I do expect them to finish second. And then in third this year, I actually have Bordeaux. Did I pronounce that correctly? Bordeaux. There we go. I have Bordeaux actually finishing third this year. I don't know. I have a feeling that this team is emerging, and I feel that they have been improving their team. And due to that, I think that they will finish third. With that being said, those are my predictions for the French league.
Well, yeah, I agree with you guys. Paris, as they call it in France, is much better than they were last year. Not to mention, they just added Serge Aurier on loan from Toulouse, which gives them a really, really good right back. You've already got two solid center backs. You've got Maxwell, of course. You've got Johan Cabaye. This team is so stacked right now. Of course, Edison Cavani rumored to leave, but really, would that hurt this team that much? Edison Cavani, subpar year in France last year. Really, it seemed that France just wasn't the place for him to be, and no other team really did anything to necessarily stay with PSG. I mean, Monaco has a great team, don't get me wrong. They played well this year, but losing James Rodriguez was a big deal. However, Ranieri did actually have James on the bench for much of last season. They do have a lot of talented players. They've got Falcao, João Moutinho. They've got so many good players, but overall, we don't have the same class. Dimitar Berbatov getting up there in age, and while I do love Valery Giroud and their young, talented player, Nicolas Ismat-Marin and Anthony Martial, or Anthony Riviere, otherwise known as the French River, they're just not a good enough team for me. They just don't. They lack that extra level. So even for me, I don't even think they're going to finish in second. I think the Champions League will be theirs in the third place spot if they can make it through the playoffs. But I like Saint-Etienne. I think this team is a really young team. I think that they're an overlooked team, and while they don't have big names, they did play very, very well last year, finishing in fourth place into the Europa League, and they only finished 2 points behind Lille. With age comes experience, so I like Saint-Etienne. Byron, what are your thoughts on the other spots?
Yeah, I think Saint-Etienne is a good bet. Stéphane Ruffier, the goalie for Saint-Etienne, had an incredible year. Really a top-class goalie for them and one of the top players or goalies in the Liga 1. I kind of disagree on Monaco as long as they have a player like Falcao who's performing at a high level. And Berbatov, even though he's getting up there in age, had a pretty good season actually, scoring 6 goals and being transferred very, very late in the season. I think Monaco's up there. Saint-Etienne is a young team, no doubt about that. Paris Saint-Germain dominating the league. But there are a few dark horses in this league that you have to look out for. Marseille has been on the decline the last couple of years. I don't see them getting back at that top form. They need to get more youth in their system. But I still see Monaco finishing second. Obviously, James Rodriguez is going to be a huge loss for them. But they still have some top quality players. And apparently, some other goalies potentially going to AS Monaco. Guillermo Ochoa has been rumored to go there, and other players as well. I could see that going on, but Saint-Etienne is a team that could finish third very easily. They have some very good potential on the attack.
Yeah, a couple of other goalies. Diego Lopez rumored to go there. And by the way, this is coming as a result of Victor Valdez tearing his ACL with Barcelona. Before that, they had a deal, Valdez in Monaco, and he would have been their goalie, but Monaco doesn't confide in a guy who has an injury, and with reason after what happened with Falcao. So they're looking at a couple of other goalies. Jake, do you feel the same about Monaco? Do you feel different? Who do you think will end up in the Champions League?
Yeah, again, I think that we're going to see Lille on the rise and take that number 2 spot. I think this team is really going to be a breakout year for Solomon Kalou. I think he's ready to put that team on his back. But again, the number 1 spot has to go to PSG. I don't even think we even mentioned the always talented Zlatan Ibrahimovic and Thiago Silva. So, again, this is PSG's league to lose. I think that's very obvious. The battle for number 2, I think, is going to go to Lille, largely in part to Solomon Kalou.
Okay, and Blake, you already gave your 3 teams, but if you have anything else,
I just think I'm just going to add to my point. Marseille, reportedly, they're going to be losing Valbuena, and I think that's a huge loss for them. They finished 6th this year in the Liga 1. I think they're going to fall even farther this season, maybe even not finish in the top 10, because He's their best player by far. He had a great World Cup, and that's just a shame that they're going to lose him. With that being said, again, PSG, the addition of David Luiz is going to be huge for them. Although he finished off in an embarrassing fashion in the World Cup, this guy is a world-class player and is well-deserving of his ginormous contract. Hopefully he can live up to the bill, and I think he has the guts to do it. He'll also be there with his defender from Brazil. There we go. David Luiz, he'll be there on defense with Thiago Silva. Those guys are both from Brazil. And then you also have to take into consideration you have Maxwell, another player from Brazil. You have 4 players in total from Brazil on the roster that are all defenders. So I think there's some good chemistry going on there, and I expect them to do well.
And really quickly, before we go on to goal scorers, in terms of the Champions League, how far do you think PSG can go? And how would I start with myself? I haven't started with myself yet. Look, this team just made the quarterfinals and they got better. So a spot in the semifinals isn't out of the question. However, I think Real Madrid and Bayern Munich are obviously probably in the best spot despite Bayern losing Toni Kroos. They're still a phenomenal team and obviously can replace him just like that, being such a great system. Not fully, but it's still Bayern Munich. I think those two are going to make it. If Mario Mandzukic heads over to Atletico Madrid, they could find themselves right back in the hunt for that spot. Barcelona, their defense is much too weak at this point, so for me, PSG is not out of the question for semifinals, and right now I think they're a fringe team at this point. Byron?
I think that's a good point to make. I don't see Paris Saint-Germain going to the semifinals. Obviously, Real Madrid is that type of team that can really repeat. James Rodriguez going over there makes them even stronger. Combine them with Kroos, Ronaldo, Bale. That is just insane, to put it simply. And then I still think Barcelona is going to make it. Don't forget, Luis Suarez heading over to Barcelona. He won't be there in the beginning, but I think they can power through without him for the first stage, and he will be a big factor for them late in the UEFA Champions League. Combined with Neymar and Messi, that attack is very, very solid, and although their defense is getting a little bit on its back end, I think they can go to the semifinals as well. And don't forget about Juventus. Even if they don't lose Arturo Vidal, who had an insane World Cup, I think they can really get up there as far as the semifinals. And also, Barcelona has recently signed defender Jerry Mathieu, 30-year-old who's from Valencia, actually, 16 million euros. That is a good defender that will help them out. Although their defense is getting old, they have new guys on their team, and that is actually a very recent move that has come up with Mathieu. Very recent.
Yeah, and of course, as I just said, their defense is weak, so they're obviously trying to address that. Jake, how far do you think PSG could potentially go in the quarterfinals?
Yeah, I completely agree with you here. There's so much talent on this team, but yet somehow, even with this much talent, I still don't think that they're on the level of some other teams, such as Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, Barcelona. So I'm going to agree with you that they're a fringe team for the semifinal. They absolutely have what it takes to make a deep run. I say lost in the semifinals.
Okay, Blake.
Yeah, you know what? This team, you look at them, and this is the best the roster has ever looked, especially with the acquisition of David Luiz. I think they've disappointed in past years, to be honest with you, in the Champions League finals and reaching the quarterfinals, like you guys said. Last season, I considered it a disappointment because you look at their forwards, and they are world-class. Cavani, Zlatan Ibrahimovic, and Lavezzi from Argentina. But the weakness right now, if you were to pinpoint a weakness on this team, it's the midfield. You only have Thiago Mata, you only have Lucas, and then you have Kabiya Johan. I think if you look at them from the outside, they are definitely going to win the French league. But compared to teams like Real Madrid and compared to Barcelona or Manchester City, I don't know if they are capable of reaching the semifinals at this point, although I definitely see a berth in the final 8 for the Champions League.
Okay, and now on to probably the easiest part of France prediction. Top goal scorer. And if anybody says anything other than Zlatan Ibrahimovic, we're all insane. But just for the sake of asking, I'm going with Zlatan. Jake?
You know what? I put my chips on Salman Kalou before. Let's just change things up. It's getting a little boring with all this. You know what?
You're going with Salman Kalou.
There's a lot of time to go with Salman Kalou to finish top.
You're going to go with Kalou. Over debatably the best striker in the world in terms of just goal scoring ability. The nose knows what he's doing. Don't bet against the nose.
Byron, I don't think it'll be Yohan Kalou.
I'd like to really shake up everything here and say a name that none of you know to be really, really out of nowhere. But come on, it's Zlatan. He's gone. He thinks he's gone. Zlatan take free kick. Zlatan score every single goal. And what's really interesting, even though Zlatan's the top scorer, I want to see how Cavani works in. He's going to stay with this team next year. Can he work in? He scored 16 goals, but as far as a total season, he seems a little bit out of chemistry. Let's see if he can work together, and Pastore, the center attacking mid, can unite the two strikers.
And last but not least, Blake, do you think Zlatan will retain his crown?
You know what? It's hard to say right now, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say that Zlatan Ibrahimovic will not finish with the most goals, and that if Radamel Falcao ends up not going to Real Madrid, he will finish with the most goals. I think that he's going to have a great bounce-back season this year for his club team, especially without James Rodriguez, who would be taking some goals away from him. If he decides to stay at Monaco, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that he finishes with the most goals in the French league.
It's definitely a possibility. Maybe Salomon Kalou does it out of nowhere. By the way, just so everybody knows, James Rodriguez pushing for Falcao to be signed by Real Madrid. We're going to get into why that may be a good idea, why that may be a bad idea when we talk about the financial fair play in FIFA. By the way, in case you're wondering if PSG is going to make any more big moves, though they want Angel Di Maria from Real Madrid, they do have a $60 million cap that was put on them, which they can no longer use due to David Luiz because of breaking financial fair play rules. There is a way around that, which we will get into later, though Real Madrid doesn't like it. So now, moving on to transfer talking, we're going to start with the big news in soccer. Not really, it was yesterday, but James Rodriguez headed to Real Madrid, had his unveiling, got hugged by a couple of fans who decided to break past the really relaxed security. Good introduction, and he's obviously going to bring a lot of new talent and a lot of young talent to Real Madrid. And we will start with Jake. What are your thoughts on the signing, and how do you think he's going to fit in with the team?
You know what? There's so much talent on this team, but sometimes talent doesn't always fit in with other talent, but that's not the case here. James Rodriguez has found another great fit in Real Madrid, and I think it would be crucial to bring in Falcao, his fellow countryman from Colombia, a breakout player in the World Cup. He really shined on a global stage, and he's ready to make that next step, and I think he deserves to be with Real Madrid, and I think he will make a positive impact with that club.
Okay, Byron, thoughts on James?
Well, the Spanish Giants have stomped on the world of football once again. This is a great move for Real Madrid. It's not just an elite player who has really proven to be a star of the future. It's a young player. James Rodriguez, being very young, has a lot of World Cups left and a lot of potential to be a star in Real Madrid for the future. He's kind of at a little bit less than Gareth Bale. Real Madrid now has Bale, Ronaldo, James Rodriguez. Although Ronaldo's getting a little bit old, those are three top caliber players for the rest of the future. And Benzema, this team has a great chance of winning this UEFA Champions League title once again. I'm just wondering of how they're going to sell anyone. This team looks to be very much in debt getting all these players. Is Angel Di Maria a player that has to go? Is there a space for him? You can just see Bale at right mid, Ronaldo at left mid, James at center forward, and Benzema at striker. Di Maria is too good to be a bench player. We saw how good he was for Real in Argentina. I think this is, although once again, another big move for Real Madrid that stomps on the football world, it's one that will pay off for them because James is a quality player who will be great for the next few years and longer.
Well, of course, I was in Colombia this past summer during the World Cup, and everybody talked so highly of James Rodriguez. Many believe that he just may be better than Falcao at this point. That's yet to be seen. Of course, Falcao coming out of an injury, he very well could be. First of all, I think obviously the back line staying the same, but this actually has an effect on how the forwards will actually line up. You know, if they decide to go with a 4-3-3, they can have Bale, Benzema, and Ronaldo as the forwards. But I see them playing more of a 4-2-3-1. That's my favorite FIFA formation. And they're going to play kind of different. Instead of playing with the two CDMs, they're going to play more of Modric and Kroos. Modric plays defense, but Kroos doesn't like to. He doesn't play a lick of defense, so that could provide an issue. But then again, Real Madrid basically did this all season long with Xabi Alonso or Sami Khedira normally playing in the middle. But James Rodriguez will replace them. And something that Rodriguez isn't getting credit for is he's actually improved drastically on defense. For the first month and a half, 2 months of the Ligue 1 season, he was actually benched because Ranieri didn't like that he didn't play defense. He started playing a lot better defense at that point and really, really improved. I see him playing at center, attacking mid, Modric and Kroos as the CDMs, Bale and Ronaldo playing kind of like right mids, but more of a right wing position. Bale, of course, playing on the right because he likes to cut into the left. Ronaldo on the left, cutting into the right. And despite all the Falcao rumors for right now, Benzema up top, but that provides great talent, especially Rodriguez being able to feed them and adding a true goal scorer in the center, unlike Xabi Alonso and Sami Khedira. Now we go to Blake. Your thoughts on James Rodriguez?
Yeah, I mean, James Rodriguez signing for Real Madrid, inking a 6-year contract worth over 63 euros. When you think about the money involved with that deal, it is just outstanding and it blows your mind. With that being said, I'm not exactly sure where he's going to fit in with the midfield because there is just so much talent. They're going to have to trade somebody. It's just a matter of who at this time. Xabi Alonso, a player that is aging but has had much success in the past for them. Angel Di Maria, Sami Khedira, Luka Modric, who they signed recently, or they signed last season is what I meant to say. Sorry about that. And then you have Lucas, a former Lucas, but also now you signed Toni Kroos. So where is he going to be getting played? And if he's not getting the time, I'm just wondering where all that money is going. And the other thing is, the way you compare it, people complain about the Yankees in baseball, about having the money, but the thing is, Real Madrid in soccer, it's like an all-star team against the rest of the world. I just think it's totally unfair, but that's a different subject for a different day.
Just because we're sticking with the Champions League subject, we'll go with how far can Real Madrid go with this current team. Of course, we don't know if Keylor Navas will be in goal, but that would definitely be an improvement over their current goalie situation. But how far can they go? Can they repeat? Can they get their 11th Champions League title? And we'll start with Byron.
I think it is definitely a possibility. This team even looks a little bit better than they were last year. Remember, Iker Casillas, who was the top-class goalie for them, was out for most of the past couple seasons, which seemed to be a big blow. They won without him in net. Get a guy like Keylor Navas, who had an outstanding, everyone knows he had an outstanding performance for Costa Rica in the World Cup. Add him in net. Plus, James Rodriguez, another star of the World Cup with Ronaldo and Bale and Benzema. It's just unfair how good this team will be. Bayern Munich losing Kroos to Real Madrid is yet another blow to them, which they can probably replace. But the Spanish Giants, I think this is a team that can definitely win the UEFA Champions League. Bearing any injuries or bearing any poor performance, this team is set to win. There's going to be some competition. Of course, Chelsea getting Diego Costa will be up there, and also some other teams that we've talked about, Bayern Munich and FC Barcelona. But Real Madrid looks poised to get their second straight Champions League title.
Yeah, look, I think Real Madrid is headed at least to the finals right now. They've had a tough time in past years, but Ancelotti now 3 Champions League titles. That's impressive, though he's not considered one of the better tactical coaches in the history of soccer. He's actually one of the better Champions League coaches in history. I think that this is their year to win again. It's their title to lose. They have the most talent. Really not many gaping holes that you can really see. Varane is a question at center back, but overall it looks very, very convincing. I see them winning it this year. Jake?
Again, here you go. This is sort of the ultimate when it comes to talent. They've got more money, a lot less problems for Real Madrid. I expect nothing less than another Champions League title for them.
Okay, and Blake?
Yeah, I mean, you look at Barcelona and they signed Luis Suarez. The problem is he's not going to get to play until halfway through the season. And I do think the signing of James Rodriguez was made in response to the signing of Luis Suarez. They were trying to counter a great player signed by Barcelona, and then they go on and sign the Golden Boot Award winner for them. With that being said, I think that they are definitely the favorites to win and repeat as champions of the Champions League, as we correctly say. Also, got to watch out for Manchester City. I know they haven't had much success in the Champions League, but they've been having some great success in the Premier League. Another team to look out for, obviously, is Bayern Munich, just one of the most stacked rosters in the world. You also have to consider Frank Ribery did not play in the World Cup. He's on their team. You have Robin, so many great players. Gomez, another player that was not on the World Cup team for Germany. This team is stacked, so those are my 4 teams, and I pick Real Madrid to win.
Okay, so with that, we're going to move on. Before we actually do, the number to call again is 224-563-8255. 84444. And now we're going to hand it over to Jake.
All right, yeah, of course. Great segue there for the Premier League transfer there. Not as much of a splash when you're talking about a team with not as much money. But as a Spurs supporter, I think it's a big deal. To me, at least. Yes, that's right. New boss, Mauricio Pochettino, has finally made his first new signing, and he's got 2 of them. It's a rare player swap in a deal with Swansea City, getting Ben Davies to sign for 5 years, as well as goalkeeper Michel Verme in return for money, and Gylfi Sigurdsson, so a reunion for Sigurdsson with Swans for Spurs. Again, this is a big addition in Ben Davies. He'll be competing with the starting job for the fullback position with guys like Danny Rose and Zeki Friars. A big improvement for us, you know. Again, being a Welshman with Spurs, it's really big shoes to fill, but just age 21, of course, there's no way. It's unlikely he'll ever be as good as Gareth Bale, but there have been comparisons drawn. And as a defender, I think he's a fantastic addition to the squad. And with Verme, again, I don't know how comfortable I felt before with Brad Friedel as the backup goalie in case anything happened to Hugo Lloris. So this is a very nice cushion to fall back on in Michel Verme. This is a great deal for us. I'm very happy for Spurs finally signing. Let's keep things going, though. This isn't going to be enough to get us above 6th place in a very competitive Premier League. We need a little bit more.
Okay, so we're going to move on. And I think this is probably one of the big topics right now in soccer. And Byron brought it up a couple of times how the Spanish Giants, of course, they're spending so much money. They're crushing everybody in terms of how much they spend. But the question is, can they really afford it? Should FIFA fair play and financial fair play really crack down on them more? So we are going to start off with you, Byron, because you brought it up a couple of times. You know, what are your thoughts? What do you think should happen, and just overall thoughts on financial fair play and how the spending has been?
Yeah, I've actually talked about this a lot today. I'm happy to talk about it more because this is a big issue with football. Coming over as an American fan, even though I'm originally from Greece, latching on to this sport, this is a clear inequality that is somewhat present in baseball with the New York Yankees, the Boston Red Sox, Dodgers, being able to spend all this money without a salary cap to get these great, crazy players. It is much more prevalent in international football. Real Madrid, FC Barcelona, it seems like every other team is like a farm system for them. Real Madrid, Barcelona, Bayern, Man U seems to pluck anyone out that becomes good. You see Bale, Ronaldo, Luis Suarez, James Rodriguez, and originally Kaká, who went $91 million, who was having a lot of success for AC Milan. It is just unfair, and I think the FIFA fair play rules are the first step towards this. Teams like Man City and PSG shouldn't be allowed to just be bought out by huge owners and basically get a lot of money. Money shouldn't equal success. That's what I'm trying to say, and that's the way it's become. And Man City, Paris Saint-Germain becoming these huge powerhouses now because they were bought up by big owners. FIFA Fair Play has to institute some of this against Real Madrid. Like you said, they're clearly in a lot of debt, and I think FIFA Fair Play could really help this out.
Okay, well, you brought up Bale, Ronaldo, Rodriguez, and Kaká. Interestingly enough, all 4 of those players to Real Madrid, they are 4 of the top 5 most expensive transfer fees in the history of soccer. The only other one, Luis Suarez, this year. So Real Madrid, they've gone out and they've spent a ridiculous amount of money. Last year, PSG and Manchester City both penalized. Here's the thing I was going to say. There's a way around all of this. Real Madrid doesn't want to do it, but PSG has proposed this. So they have a $60 million cap right now. They proposed that Real Madrid loan him out this season, and that next season they deal him on a promise deal, basically, for 60 million euros. So they're just finding ways around this. They don't really care about the penalties, so it's not even that effective. Here is the effective debt of Real Madrid. 541 million euros. That's 64% of its total liabilities. In case you don't count very well, 541 million is a very, very high number. Look, it's insane how much they have to pay. But look at this. They make 156 million euros at the end of last season. That's not enough. That's not enough. They have a negative balance of almost 100 million euros. They can't keep it up. Not to mention they want to build a new stadium. That's insane. You think of Everton, who I know is your favorite team, Byron. In terms of spending, they actually have a negative amount of money they've created, and they're considered one of the teams that almost never spends that much. They actually use their money very wisely. The fact that in the 2008-2009 season, the Premier League recorded a negative debt of minus 1.3 billion pounds. It's insane. 1.3 billion pounds is an amount of money that most people in the world would never ever think of actually being able to see, let alone spend. Jake, thoughts on this whole scenario?
Well, when Byron says farm system, actually the first club that comes to my mind is Southampton. Finished 8th place in the Prem, but guess what? They had so much great young talent, and every single one of them finds a way to be transferred out. This year, just this month actually, July 1st, Ricky Lambert and Milano went to Liverpool. Luke Shaw to Man U. All they've got in return so far is Toussaint Tajid from Twente in Netherlands, as well as Graziano Pede from Feyenoord in the Dutch league. And that's just this year. So, again, I'm sure Saints supporters would have a lot to say about this. At the end of the day, money leads to talent, and talent leads to championships. If you follow that equation, money leads to championships, and at the end of the day, it's just a shame that the amount of money you have, because at least in the MLB, I mean, you got the Oakland A's right now, the best record in the MLB. At least there's not as much of a disparity. In soccer, there is so much superstar talent, and they are all going to Real Madrid or Barcelona.
Here's the thing, though. If you look at the North American Soccer League, which was the MLS before the MLS, the New York Cosmos, many consider them to be the greatest North American soccer team to ever be assembled. Franz Beckenbauer, they had Pelé. They had so many terrific players on that team. I'm not even naming all of them. I could go on and on with the players on that team. But what happened to the league? They started spending too much. They couldn't handle it, and they went bankrupt. The league dissipated, and now they're basically a second division team, not in the MLS. See, this is the problem. The more you go into debt, the more risk you have of having to go bankrupt. And once you go bankrupt, you've got a lot of problems. Sure, you win a lot, but if you're going to lose the team, it's a big deal. UEFA President Michel Platini said this: 50% of clubs are losing money, and this is an increasing trend. We need to stop this downward spiral. They have spent more than they have earned in the past and haven't paid their debts. We don't want to kill or hurt clubs. On the contrary, we want to help them in the market. Teams who play in our tournaments have unanimously agreed to our principles, living with your means and the basis of accounting, but it hasn't been the basis of football for years now. The owners are asking for rules because they can't implement them themselves. Many of them have had it with shoveling money into clubs, and more money you put into clubs, the harder it is to sell profit. So basically, the fact that 50% of teams are losing money is crazy. Oh, actually, I was wrong. It wasn't 1.3 billion. It was 3.1 billion. Oh, that's a little more. That's about triple the amount I said. It's insane. Every single league. You look at AC Milan, 69.71 million in losses. Even Genoa, 16 million. This is all euros, by the way. That's a lot. La Liga, actually, they've got 8% growth in the revenues, which is better, which is surprising, especially considering Real Madrid. But even then, it's not good. And French and German leagues, of course, FFP has come down on PSG. But it's just crazy the amount of money they're losing. Byron, anything else to add?
Yeah, I think you got a lot of it in. A lot of these teams spending so much money, I think Real Madrid is going to be punished for the stuff they're doing. They can't afford, or the league can't afford to have superpowers like this literally dominate the rest of the world. How does that make every other Sunderland fan feel, Everton fan, that they're constantly at the bottom of the table and hoping someday that these giants are just going to go bankrupt? That's just unfair to them. A salary cap, that has to be argued for something that they can't spend this much money, and it's pretty sad that it's happening for most of professional football. However, I'm really happy that the UEFA financial fair play has been brought into use, because just reporting so much loss in such a profitable business that has increased. Football has become more popular in America now because of the World Cup. It's really, this is the good thing. It's a good thing financial fair play has been instituted, and that prevents all these clubs from going bankrupt, and that's how I feel about the subject.
Here's something I would also want to point out. You know, if you really want to institute a salary cap, if people have decided that this is the only solution, it has to be very gradual to even it out. Because, look, Real Madrid did earn those Champions League wins. They are very rich squads, but they earned those championships. It's not fair to say, hey, for the past century, you've been very successful, now back to square one. All of a sudden, it's not the matter of pushing a reset button. I think the team should be allowed to prepare for what's to come if there is a salary cap implemented.
Okay, and yeah, of course, just to close out the segment, I think we're all in agreement. Financial fair play, it has to crack down. It's time to tell big clubs who are overspending and going to debt that they can't happen any longer. They've gone on too long, spending too much, and it's time to finally tell these teams no more. You have to create some kind of cap because that's how it's worked in North American sports. And unfortunately for European sports, if it keeps going on this trend, the North American Soccer League will basically just become La Liga or some of the big clubs. So with that, we're going to go on to our final segment, our own goal segment, basically the funny moments in sports. And we have 2 videos, but we're not going to show them here. We'll basically talk about them. They will be posted to our Facebook page. And Jake, have you seen the Mario Balotelli video?
I don't think anyone hasn't seen the Mario Balotelli video. He's dancing, he's ironing, but he's also reading Zlatan Ibrahimovic's autobiography, and he's not wearing a shirt. I don't know. That's Mario Balotelli for you. I'm surprised he does his own ironing, though.
That's true. You know what? I would think he had somebody for that. But he's Mario Balotelli. You know, why always him? Why does it always have to be him? Because he wants it to be honest. But we move on now. Arsenal players. So they're obviously in New York City for their tour, and they tried to do New York City accents. Let me just tell you, it wasn't pretty. Kieran Gibbs, not horrible, but not good either. You'll definitely have to check that out. It was pretty funny. And with that basically concludes our segment. Really, really short. Byron, if you want to shout out to your YouTube channel, go ahead.
Oh yeah, Byron Thompson, I'd like to thank both of you guys for having me. I actually have a YouTube channel on YouTube. I make FIFA 14 player reviews. I have about 3,000 subscribers, 420,000 views. So FIFA 14 player reviews of all special cards, man of the matches, informs. Just a quick shout out. I'm lucky to meet these guys, and thank you all for listening, and thank you guys for having me on your show.
No problem. Be on any time. Okay, so with that, Jake, do you have any shout outs for soccer? Of course. By the way, in case we didn't mention it, International Champions Cup starts tomorrow. There are also, of course, Spurs games. I believe it's today they're playing, or is it tomorrow? I don't know, but they are playing a bunch of preseason games. So if you're looking for some soccer to catch, definitely look into those. Jake, any last words?
Any last words? Shout out to Brad Friedel for only giving up 3 goals to Sounders as a third stringer. I'm sorry, I'm still entitled to be disappointed. We drew 3-3 with the Seattle Sounders. That's more of a shout at, not a shout out.
Shout out.
Shout out. A shout at. And of course, shout out to family back home.
Okay.
No, we're in Boston right now. Shout out to the family back home in LA.
By the way, Byron's channel, if you want to check it out, is Bison. Also, be sure, of course, to follow us or like us on Facebook, Kicking It with Jake and Noah. And thank you guys for all the support. We hope you enjoy, and we will catch you next week.
People see me, but they just don't know.
What I told you, Cutter.
People see me, but they just don't know. People see me, but they just don't know. People,
Let's go.
people see me, but they just don't know. People see me, but they just don't know.